Hi Whiskers! I am almost on my way out the door, but I wanted to pop in and do a quick video. My final book haul for 2020. Definitely going to be buying a lot of new books going into 2021, but this is my final one for now. I visited my parents and there was a secondhand bookstore, so obviously I got some things. Okay, let's get into it. First one. Gunslinger Girl. It's pink. It has a badass girl on the cover. But honestly, I was pretty intrigued because Gunslinger, Dark Tower, I'm pretty into that series, so yeah, curious. It probably doesn't have anything to do with that. It's a Wild West sort of fantasy thing. It's really pink. So I was intrigued, mostly by the title. I actually don't usually like the she's a girl but she fights well thing. I usually don't like guns. So I'm not actually sure where I got this, but I did, and I'm actually pretty keen on it. I like the design of the cover. I don't usually look at much else. So yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what this is about at all. And I'm pretty sad because under the dust cover, it's really boring. There's like nothing. So I bought it though, and I'm still keen on reading it. Okay, next. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I already checked this one. Under the dust cover, it's exactly the same. So I don't really know what's the point, but yeah. I'm super keen on this one. I've always wanted to read it, but I've never come across this book before. Actually, this is a trilogy in 4 parts, but if you're putting it all into one book, what is the point of dividing the trilogy into 4 parts? Yeah, so that's that. I'm really keen on reading this. As I said, I don't even know much about what it's about. Like, I know there's like some pop culture references from it, and there used to be, especially when I was in high school, a lot of people were like referencing it. But I never actually like, what is the plot? I assume it's going to be sci-fi comedy. I haven't read a comedy in a while. So I'm very, very keen on this. Very keen. But I'm going in blind again. The next 2, I assume, are classics. But I actually don't know. I'm assuming they're classics because of the way they look. Really, really pretty. Like, look at that. Nothing on the back. Once again, assuming they're classics. There's no blurb anywhere. So I probably should know about this, but I've never heard of this. The first one is Barchester Towers. And then Far from the Madding Crowd. Madding, not maddening. Don't actually know what madding means like that then. But yeah, I'm really keen on this. I usually am not a fan of classics. They're usually slow, they're not written in a way that I enjoy. The sentences go on too long, and paragraphs are at least 5 sentences too long. So with the length of the sentences, that's about 5 pages overdue. But I'm really interested in these because they're classics, but I've never heard of them. So yeah, keen on that. Next one is a history book. So before I get into this exactly, I've always wanted to read more history. I've always been intrigued by history. And we did sort of weird bits of history in high school and like primary school. Primary school, we did Zulu history a lot of, which I really found fascinating and I really enjoyed. And then high school, we did like, you know, the basics, Boer War, French Revolution, and then apartheid. It honestly is always weird to me how they decide which histories to teach us and which not. Because I don't know about you, but I don't really know why the First World War happened. Like, I understand the second one, but what was the First World War about again? And the Cold War? How did... What? And why is the French Revolution the only revolution we're speaking about? Like, because I'm interested in history, I've picked up a couple of stories here and there. The Irish Revolution, really interesting. Why don't we talk about that? Um, the bit between the Second Boer War and apartheid, there's like a couple of years in there. What the hell happened? I'm not sure. And also, like, what was South Africa like before Bartolomeu Diaz landed here? Like, we know there were people here, obviously. What was it like? What was their culture like? Like, I know a little bit about the Zulus, and I know how the arrival of the Europeans in South Africa affected them, but what about everybody else? So yeah, I'm really interested in that. I know a little bit about the Sotho history. I know a little bit here and there, like bits and pieces, but I want to put it all together. I want to find out more about my heritage, being a Boer, and more about the heritage of all the people around me. I want to know more, and I'm sort of disappointed, as I often am, in like our schooling, that we didn't find out more about that. Why exactly was the French Revolution more important than the cattle killings that went on right here? I really don't understand how they make their choices there. So yeah, stuff I'm really interested in, but usually I'm not buying as many history books as I should because they're usually not in a digestible format. So maybe this is a start, and maybe this is my goal for 2021. You guys can keep me to it. I want to read more history. And these are short stories from the war. I don't know if it's the second or the first one, but they're short stories from the war, which probably will be a bit more digestible format than just like a textbook. So yeah, half of it is in Afrikaans. The other half is in Dutch. I cannot speak Dutch. My sister can speak Dutch, but I can't. I don't think that'll be too much of a problem, though. It's going to be slow reading, it's going to be difficult reading, but Dutch and Afrikaans is sort of mutually intelligible. They won't say that because we are the lesser language. We simplified Dutch a lot and brought in elements from around us when Afrikaans was formed. But I still understand what I'm reading. So let's take an example. That is Afrikaans. Okay. Let us read a sentence. Daar wit nooit weer iets gehoord hebben van die vredesvoorstel. Moet ek veronderstellen dat beide staatspresidente het hebben afgekeer. So that is not Afrikaans, but I can understand it. I never heard about the pleas of peace again, and so I have to assume that both of the presidents rejected the offers. Like, I understand. The words just kind of have a couple of extra letters here and there. But it's sort of like somebody is making a bunch of typos, but it's Afrikaans. And it's a lot easier to read because then you can go over the word again, where when they're speaking, you kind of have to keep up. So yeah, I think I'm going to do just fine with the Dutch, and I'm really keen on this. I really think I should make it my goal for 2021. I want to read more history, and I will share that with you guys as we go, the same way that I share non-fictions, because I think it's important. I think knowledge is important, and that's why I'm always like a little bit iffy on the new ways of educating people. Children should follow their curiosity. But what if they're not curious about the right things? The reason that we as a human race have come so far is because we can give information from one generation to the next. Mostly in oral traditions, but then obviously also in written form. And if we just teach children what they want to learn, then we don't get that. Everything is not conveyed. We can't stand upon the shoulders of giants if we're not interested in what they have to say. So I think it's important to know your history and to know about the knowledge that's out there, in order to build upon it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can read about the first time it was invented and all the mistakes they made and learn from it without having to go through that ourselves. So I'm definitely all for people reimagining a better world. But Learn from the mistakes of the past, people. We can imagine the future while looking at the past as reference. We have to stand upon the shoulders of giants. We have thousands of generations behind us who weren't idiots. They were less informed than we are now, but aren't we kind of throwing that benefit away if we don't use all the information that's available to us? So yeah, I'm always keen on learning more, especially more about our history and our past and everything. So yeah, that is this one. Speaking of the generations that came before, this is actually a book I've never read, and I maybe should have read it because it's written by my dad. He dropped off a bunch of copies of his book here, and he didn't tell me why. He just sort of left them here, and I've never actually read this. It's non-fiction, The Invisible Customer, and it's about sales management and strategy. The subtitle is A Management Guide to Unlocking Immense Hidden Potential for Growth Through Customer Quality Management. So yes, doesn't sound like the most awesome read ever. I'm not particularly into sales, but I can't just have gone on that whole spiel about learning from the generations before and ignore literally the previous one. So yeah, I'll probably read this. It's a thin book. I don't think it'll take me too long. Are there pictures? There are pictures, guys. I didn't know there were pictures. It's actually really high quality print. So yeah, look, pictures of the 2080 principle, which I sort of know what it is, but yeah. So yeah, I'll probably be reading this as well at some point. It won't take me too long. So yeah, that was my final book haul for 2020. I know this year has been shitty, to say the least, but I think as a South African, I am really proud about how we've been handling it. We did well, guys. Our government put people's lives in front of the economy. They prioritized us living and having grandparents to learn from over being able to party in the streets. Like, I'm super proud of us. Like, I'm so happy about that. The day of mourning is coming soon, and I will be wearing a black armband for gender-based violence and for all the people killed by Corona. I'm also going to hold in my heart all the people who died on the farm murders. I think, yeah, that's a really complicated subject, but I don't think it's a race thing specifically. There are bad people killing people in vulnerable positions. Farms are isolated and nobody can hear you scream. And that's really scary. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it right now. But yeah, I'm proud of us. It was a really tough year, but we weathered the storm and most of us are going to be okay. There are plans in place to help everybody, everybody who's suffered financially from this. I know our unemployment is ridiculous at the moment and I can't imagine it actually being real. But we're actually doing something about the corruption. Move 1 Million is a movement that exists and that I'm looking into joining a protest soon. I feel really hopeful after this year. Because looking back, if let's say President Zuma was in charge, things would have been different. Things would not have turned out so well, I think. And yeah, for the first time in a long time, I sort of feel like, look, South Africa did this. We survived it well. We actually came together on something. And we can move forward with this sort of momentum. We took a step back, definitely, but I think things can get better going forward. And obviously, we need the vaccine as soon as possible because people don't like wearing masks. They are, at least, you know, with the nose sticking out. But yeah, I don't know. This was just me popping in to say hi. I am late. But it was nice talking to you guys again. Comment down below. I don't know what you want to comment on the books, on the history thing. Yeah, on the political talk. Bye, Whiskers.